Hello folks. We are going to work on a fun project today. Again, I have another round board. You can use rectangle, square, it's up to you. It's a simple project with a lot of layering to it. It'll make a great gift for a young man. If you have a young man in your life that loves to play baseball, or a young woman, then this would make a great gift. So it's about baseball. We're going to do a little baseball sign, and again, it's just a fun project, something simple, but it kind of works you through learning how to work with acrylic paint. In this case, we're going to be taping off and doing stripes. So your measurement may, depending on what surface you're working on, your measurement may be a little different from mine. But I took my ruler off camera and did 3/4 inch marks across the base of this, and then did the same at the top. And so I used 3/4 inch because the Scotch Magic tape is 3/4 inch. Plus, I think because this is the background is supposed to kind of look like a referee shirt, I think 3/4 inch stripes may look pretty good. You could do 1 inch, make your life easier and do 1 inch, but by using a 3/4 inch tape, it's going to cover up the spots because it's going to end up being black and white stripes. Okay, so I'm going to take my tape, pull out a lot. I'm going to dog ear one end, and then I'm going to lay it covering up the pencil mark. Well, it'd be a good idea if I had it straight. There we go. There we go. Okay. All I did was lay it from one spot. Well, if I just leave it there. So the tape is laid across one of the spots here and then one here. And I'm going to dog ear the opposite end as well, so it makes it easy to remove it. Now I'm just pressing it down, making sure I get a good seal. And what you're looking at basically is where the tape is. That's going to be the white stripe. The empty spot is going to be the black. The tape, empty spot, tape, empty spot. And you go all the way down with your tape. Okay? I'll be back. Okay. I have my tape in place, and so I have tape and then a 3 1/4 inch empty space, and then I have tape again, 3 1/4 inch empty space, and so on all the way across. Now, these end up being perfectly straight. I'll be shocked. It'll be okay though. It's a fun project. So if you end up going with an inch stripes, that's fine. 1/2 inch stripe, it's totally up to you. Okay, all I'm doing is just rubbing across this tape to make sure on the stripes that I've got a really good seal so it doesn't bleed through the paint. Oh, I hope they look okay. And we'll see. All right, grabbing some black paint. We're gonna put a puddle on your palette. Maybe just a smidge more. And I am using to apply the paint, a 1-inch flat brush. There we go. The paper towel was getting away from me. You're just going to fill up your brush with black paint. Try when you're putting paint on your brush to keep the paint about halfway down the bristle or the hairs. That, because I have explained this before, but it's worth repeating. If paint gets up inside the cylinder here, even if you wash your brush real well, most of the time you can't get that paint back out. And then when that paint dries in there, it will cause your bristles to start opening up. And so you won't have that nice edge anymore. So again, try to keep your paint down there. Now if it just, you know, works its way up because you're working on a project and you're in a hurry, and then just stop for just a minute, rinse your brush really good. So that way we don't get a bunch of paint up inside here. Okay, so all we're gonna do is go over the whole process of the tape, either, you know, it doesn't matter, the tape as well as the empty spot. You could go over just the empty spot if you like. One of my lights is giving me a little bit of more of a glare, so. And then just easy strokes back and forth. And I think because the black is covering the white, we may just get away with just one coat. So just easy strokes back and forth. And when you dog ear your tape, it makes it so much easier to remove it. Well, let's just cover that tape completely. And you don't have to wait for the paint to dry before you remove your tape. Matter of fact, it is best to remove the tape before the paint dries. Sometimes, if the paint is dry and you go to remove the tape, it may pull up a little bit of your paint. Sometimes it doesn't. I think it has a lot to do with the moisture in the air and how dry your, if you painted your board, how dry that background color is. Okay, I'm gonna finish off camera. Hello guys, we're back. Okay, I have painted. When I had the tape on here, I painted all my lines, so I ended up with black stripes, and removed all my tape, and then I taped off the bottom. And because I'm working on this circle, the widest spot here is about 1.5 inches, and so I taped off and then painted all that. Kind of, again, reminds you of a referee shirt. I hope the stripes don't make you nuts. I'm kind of wondering, why did I go with stripes? Well, because the scene is really cute, honestly. And again, this is just a fun project, but it's another aspect of painting with acrylics. It teaches you, you know, how fast they dry, of course, when you're painting with them. It teaches you how to build your project. And that's really what you do when you're doing a painting. you're building it, layer upon layer. You know, as far as in this case, it's a white background, a solid white background, and then putting the tape on there, and so you can get the stripes nice. And then of course, putting a base. All right, so now, and of course, real quick, I didn't press as good as I wanted to, or I thought I did. And so it kind of bled through just a smidge. And if I were to be giving this as a gift, I would go back with my liner brush and a little bit of white paint and catch some of those little bleed throughs. Like those little things right there. I'll go back over it with a little bit of white just to get rid of it. But that's me being picky. Okay, we'll set this aside, and we're going to put, well, let me show you real fast before I do that. We're going to put what is home plate at an angle on here. And instead of trying to measure out with a ruler at first, when I was trying to work this pattern up, it just, to me, it was confusing. So I decided to work up a home plate pattern on a piece of paper. And let's see. All right. So, again, it's really depending on what surface you're working on. If you're putting this on something larger or smaller, then of course you'll have to make your home plate a little smaller. But what I did was, I came in here and I made an 8-inch line here, a 5-inch line here and here, because home plate in this painting is got a point to it. Then I found the center of this main line, which was 8 inches, so the center was 4, and I drew down as far, with using the ruler, as far as I wanted that point to be. So I have my sides, I have my top, and I have a center mark, and I wanted that center to be right about 8 inches. And so then, once I got those lines all in, I could get that nice angle by touching the ruler on the 5-inch and the 8-inch and drawing it in. I hope that makes sense. Now you could freehand, because it's maybe a kid room sign. You could just freehand that home plate on your sign, and that, you know, that's totally up to you. But this again kind of shows you how, in building this particular painting, how I've come about getting my pattern. So again, this is home plate, 8 inches, 5 inches, 8 inches right down the center, starting at the 4-inch mark, and then coming back in with the angle lines, which are right at 5 inches. Okay, now to get that home plate on here, what I'm going to do is, and I just really want it at an angle. So I'm going to lay it on here. That's about a good spot. And what this is going to do, of course, once you're seeing my video, you're seeing the end result. So you'll get to see it. But once I put the home plate on here, hopefully I'm going to come in with a bat right through here and a big baseball with the red thread, the sewing on it, right about here. And then in the center of the home plate, oh, I am thinking like the font Go Team. And actually, I need to make this font a little bit bigger, because I was thinking my home plate was gonna be a bit smaller, but I made it larger. So I'll go back on my program and I'll blow this up a little bit more. And what I'll do is end up saying go team win. But some really cute things, if you have a particular guy you want his name on there, or young lady, you know, you can say go team Josie, go team Weston, go team Graylin, go team Amelia. Those are my great grandkids. Okay, so to get this home plate on here, again, I don't want it straight. I need it to be a little angled, a little off kilter. And I am going to place it there. And with 2 pieces of tape, I'm going to tape the top of that. This is my pattern. So I'm going to tape the top of that pattern right onto the board so it doesn't move. I'm going to take my graphite paper, slide it in there. This is a time I'm not making this pattern out of trace paper because there's no need for me to have to see the background in placing this. I just want to make sure my graphite paper covers. Yes, it does. Covers the space. Okay, again with graphite paper, this is the dull side, and you want the brighter side on your project. So using my ruler so I can kind of keep it fairly straight since I've done all these straight lines. And using my stylus, and I'm gonna use the wider end of the stylus. Just gonna come in here, put my ruler back where it belongs along the straight line, and just give me a line. By taping your project down, it doesn't move. Again, we'll just do another line there. Now we don't need that center line. That was just helping us get that nice point. Just lining up my ruler where it catches the pencil line. Using my stylus, you press down. You don't have to press down real firm, but a little bit of, just a little bit, and it'll press through this copy paper and onto that graphite paper. Okay, put my ruler about where it belongs, next to that pencil line. Come in here, holding my ruler, use my stylus. Now, that should be it. Now before I move the pattern, always, 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 don't move your pattern. Check your, check and make sure you got everything you wanted from the pattern onto your project. And I did. Got this line, this line, this line, and the top line, and the side line. That's all I need. Okay, so we can remove this pattern. I'm just pushing those tape pieces down so it doesn't stick to anything else. All right, we're getting there. The project is, I wouldn't say halfway finished. All right, next thing is we're gonna tape off again, and you're gonna do dog ears. Nice little dog ears at the end of that tape. And I think I'll start at the very top. And you're just gonna come in and place your tape right where it almost touches that pencil. And the reason I say that is you don't want to cover the pencil mark, or excuse me, I'm sorry, the graphite mark. You want the tape, like for instance, let's say this is the graphite mark on your pattern. You want your tape just and the paintbrush being the tape, you want that tape just right next to it, so when you paint inside this, your paint will catch that graphite mark, and then you don't have to worry about trying to erase it off your project. So again, place the tape just right beside the graphite mark that it made. Got to get rid of that paper. All right, I'm turning my project, but I want to rub on that edge of that tape so we get a good seal. Again, taking the tape, do a dog ear, and let's cover this next little spot. There we go. Now you only have to dog ear one end, or you can do both. It's up to you. Okay, I'm going to finish taping off these sides and then come back and we're going to paint in this home plate with pretty much a dingy white. We'll end up staining it a little bit too, so it kind of looks like a used home plate. I'll be back. Okay, I have finished taping off my home plate. And again, you just take your finger and rub the edge of that tape where the paint is going to touch. Just rub it ever so slightly. You should get a pretty good seal. Another thing I like about magic tape is that when I remove the tape, rarely does it ever take the background paint up with it. Okay, so we've got that. We're going to start with a puddle of white. And since this white is so thick, and we're starting obviously to paint on top of paint, you want to water this down a little bit. And yes, my water is yucky and it's not going to hurt a thing. So a little dab of water on your stir brush. See, a little dab of water, and stir that up nicely. And again, we want this to look dingy, so we're going to add a little drop of brown paint. Any brown paint will do. Where it's almost that beige color. There we go. That might be a little too much. We'll see. Oh, maybe not. Adding a little bit more water. My paints are super thick today. All right, I'm not that happy with that color. I wanted it a little bit lighter than that. So instead of, I could just add more white to this, but it might end up being a real battle where you just keep adding more white. So I'm gonna put a little bit of white over here to the side. Grab a little bit of the water. And this is just a personal preference, guys. You can't, it's totally up to you how dark you want that home plate to look. So we're gonna add a little bit more of the white and brown mix. I definitely want to see a difference, but I don't want it quite that dark. Adding a little bit more. But these kind of mistakes that I make to show them on camera is excellent, so you can see how you can recover and make it better. Adding water a little bit more, loosen that paint up. I want to add just a little bit more of that brown white. It definitely has to be distinctive off the white stripes, if that makes sense. See? And looking at the white stripes and looking at this off-white paint, I'm seeing a good difference, and that's what I want. Okay, we're good to go. Taking my 1-inch brush, making sure it's damp, wipe off the base of the brush or the bottom of the brush, make sure you have no water drips. And we've got our tape here for the guideline, and we're just gonna take, paint that home plate. See, we are going to make that home plate even more dingy looking with a little bit of paint stain. And in this case, without a doubt, we're either gonna have to do 2 or 3 coats. So it covers up those black background stripes. And again, I'll slow myself down here. These are just short little strokes filling in, and because you can see those stroke marks where I stop and go again. So before the paint dries, I will go back and go straight down and straighten up those little stop and starts. The reason you do that, for me, again, probably being a little picky, is because I'm gonna do probably 2 more layers of paint on top of here. And if you have all these little stops and starts, they become ridges. I don't know, I just don't think that looks very good in the background. So, before it dries, slow and easy, pressing on my 1-inch brush. I'm going all the way across to make sure I catch all the ridges. Now it's starting to get a little tacky, so I'm just going to lightly go over the home plate just to make sure I don't have any ridges of paint, rolled up, ridges of paint, and it kind of straightens up those lines a little bit. Just gives you, again, a good base to work from. Okay, I think it's good. All right, we're gonna let that dry. Okay, now I covered mine. It took 3 coats to really cover it good. I still have the tape on here. And again, I did 3 coats total. I went this direction with 2 coats. The first coat, and then let it dry. The second coat, going this direction, let it dry. And then I went this opposite direction to just really give it a good coverage to cover those black and white lines. Smoothing out your strokes while it's still wet, and then let it dry really good. I've waited a good 15 minutes. Had some morning chores to do. Okay, so now we're gonna give it a little stain look. And this is a time I'm gonna go ahead and use my glaze. The glaze is wonderful for making stain. It just causes it to be more translucent, the paint, without losing the nice color. You can layer so many things. Let's say you take an apple, you're painting an apple, and you paint it red and a little bit of burgundy. Once that dries, you can mix a little bit of red and orange together and add your glaze to that mixture, as well as water. Stir it really well. And then when you put that color on top of an apple, you don't lose that background color you've already painted, but it just enhances, like you would, you just have to see it physically see it done. But, okay, I've got a small little spot of my brown color, and that's the brown that I used to mix up the off-white. Again, we're repeating our colors. Your glaze mixture needs to be pretty well the ratio of 1 to 1. So your glaze mixture needs to be about the same amount as your paint if you're using glaze. And then use your stir brush with water, and you're going to stir those together. Now, if you're not using glaze, you can just water down your brown paint to the consistency of Jell-O, and then that would be a good stain for you. Again, I'm adding water with my stir brush and just stir it in. So if you are using glaze, it is a 1 to 1 ratio and a good amount of water. So it's coming close to the thinness, I would say, Jell-O before it sets, and stirring it well. Okay, I think that'll do it. I'm going to use my number 5, I do believe, or number 4 round brush to apply my stain mixture. And I'm going to have ready my large filbert brush to do a little bit of pouncing and making sure it's damp and wiped off. Same thing with the round brush. Make sure it's damp, wiped off. And what I'm shooting for here is, again, that light cloudy look. And just to dance it around the edges so it looks like a dirty home plate. So grab a little bit of the brown glaze we made, or brown stain. And it's going to set up pretty quick. So just do a little section at a time. We're going to dance around. You can see it sets pretty fast. Grab a little bit of water on your dancing brush or your blending brush. Move it a little bit more if you want. All I'm doing is just doing the tapping motion just to break it up some. I really don't want a perfect line. We'll come out here a little bit with a little bit of the brown. And again, it just gives it that old dingy look. Okay, same thing on this side. Put a little bit of brown. My brush, my blending brush, my dancing brush, it's wet. Excuse me, it's damp. And we're just going to dance that around. Right at the edge of that tape. I'm going to rinse that blending brush, wipe it off, and break that up a little bit. All this does is just give this home plate a little bit more interest, and it gives you a little bit of practice with applying stain to your project. This makes it a dingy look, but when you use this stain at the edge of something you're wanting a shadow, this works as well, this stain. So you'll see eventually these different methods will show up in your paintings quite often. All I'm doing is breaking this up a little bit more. Of course, in this area is where the words are gonna go. Add a little bit of brown there. One of the other things about when you use glaze, I can still move this around a little bit more with a damp brush. It hasn't actually set up well. It's dry, but I can make it move again with a damp brush. Okay, a little bit of brown there. Brown stain. Dance it around. Again, we're having that bit of a cloudy look. Very similar to what we did on the grape painting. Just give it a little something. Make it look all kind of dirty. They've been running into home plate or sliding in. I know very little about sports, but I have gone to a few games with my dear husband. It was fun. Okay. Well, we just put a little bit right there. I don't want it completely covered in the dingy look. I still want a little bit of spots there that may not have it on there. That's just a personal preference. You could work it till you're happy with it. Okay. Now, we are going to let that dry. It's probably going to take about 10 minutes to let that dry really good. But you can go ahead and remove your tape. So let's just pull that off. See, the dog ears come in handy. Well, I say that. Let's go the opposite direction. Okay, there we go. Rolling it up in a little ball. I think it needs a little bit more stain right there. So I'll just put a dab using my number 5 round brush. And I'm going to use a smaller blending brush just so I don't go off there. If I do, no big deal. I must have not gone as close to that tape as I thought. Okay, I want to break that up just a little bit more, but I'm going to use my large filbert brush. It's damp. Going to dry it off. I'm grabbing it and pulling it out a little bit. I just don't want a perfect line. And see, if I wanted to, I could take a little bit more off by, again, damping your brush and just blend. All I'm doing is cleaning my brush and going back over that one spotted area, because there is a line there, and I think before I mess it up, I'm just going to leave it. Okay, there we go. We got the tape off. We're going to let it dry. I see where I got a little spot on my black, which will probably end up splattering, so it won't matter, but I could grab a little bit of that black and just touch that spot and make it disappear. Okay, let's let that dry for a few minutes, and then we'll start working on, we're gonna add a little bit of stitching to the home plate, and then let that part dry. We're going to freehand a bat If you do have a bat pattern, you know, again, printing off a bat picture off your computer, you could use that and graphite paper and apply it. But I think I can wing it with using a liner brush, and which is one of these little small brushes, and freehand. A big old bat right here is what the plan is. And then right about here will be the big baseball. Once all that is done, then we're going to work towards putting the font, the words, on the base. Then we'll probably add a little bit more of a stitching look around the edge, just to give it a little something. And then we'll see where it looks like. If it needs something else, we'll add a little bit more. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, it's dry enough. Let's add our stitches. Again, this is a personal preference. You don't have to do this to your project, but it's just to give a little bit more interest to that home plate. I took a dab of my brown, just regular brown, and added a little bit of water to it because we're going to be using the thin liner brush. Of course, always when you're loading that liner brush, grab some paint and then twirl it off. All right, little stitches. There's so many different ways you can do it. Nowadays I see more where they do those squirrely little lines, and not all the way down. They do a squirrely line and then stop, do a squirrely line. But in this case, I'm gonna do the actual stitches, which is line, space, line, space, line, space, line, right close to the edge. Grab a little bit more paint, twirl it off. We got a space and a line, space and a line. You want to take that down to the point. Again, this just gives it a little bit more interest. All right, same thing on this side. We got a space there. Space, line. Grab your paint, twirl it off. Space, line. They're not always going to be exact, but they'll be close. Turn your project to make it easier on yourself. Load your paintbrush, twirl off. Space and line. Load your paintbrush, twirl it off, leaving a space at that corner. We just do a small line, space and line all the way down. Almost done here. Space, line. Okay, now the other decorative thing, they used to do this like crazy back in the 80s. You could leave your stitches just like that, leave it be. But let's enhance it a little bit more, right? Okay, grab a little bit of that watered down brown paint, twirl it off. And just ever so often, you're just gonna do a little quick, what I call a quick stitch. Grab paint, twirl it off. And again, this just gives it a little bit more decorative interest. You don't have to do it. And there's no rhyme or reason. Just ever so often is some of those empty spaces. Obviously it doesn't show up real well and it hits that black line, but that's okay. Turn in my work, add a few more of these wild looking stitches. And I'll try to do one, let's see, slower. Okay, it's a quick, the faster you do it, the more wispy it is. So you grab and throw. Grab and throw that brush. Throw that brush. Okay. Let's add one more, why not? There we go. We'll give that a minute to dry. It won't take long. Especially in this Texas heat. My goodness gracious. Oh, Lord, please send the rain. All right, that's got to dry. I went out and printed a larger Go Team so it fits in this box nicely. And then I put it on my, transfer it over onto my trace paper, just so when I lay this on here, I can see my background so much better and position this the way I want it. We'll talk about it again, but what I'm looking at is the distance here between the M and the edge of the home plate and the G, and it's an eyeball thing. You could use a ruler and make sure it's exact. That's totally up to you. But in this case, I'm just gonna eyeball it and get it on there the way I want. But again, I printed off Go Team. All I did was put my trace paper on top of it and traced over it. I used the trace paper, that way you can see your background so much better and positioning how you want it positioned on there. You can still use the copy paper as a pattern and put the graphite paper underneath it and transfer it, but you can tell it's hard to see your background, so it's kind of like, oh, do I have it too far this way, too far that way? Okay, I'm sure you get the point. All right, when that completely dries nicely, we're going to freehand that bat right here, and then we're going to put a nice size ball here. In the meantime, if you can try to find something round, you know, about that size. I am leaning towards the bottom of this big white paint bottle. That might be a good size baseball. I think so. I might go with something even bigger. Okay, we shall see. Then we shall see if we get that bat on here just about right. I'll be back.